So I think the two of you will be perfect guests here because you're gonna listen to this from a perspective of someone who's not in the topic.
Cool.
And then you can interrupt me and like tell me like, hey, but we can do this at GitLab. We announced it like this month or something like that. And now you're gonna have to tell me about how this is not or is gonna work for from the development perspective, like as a team lead. So basically, just to recap what we are currently doing here. So first of all, this is just from the release manager's perspective. This is what we currently have, where we use chatops command to trigger creating stable branches. So this is PM, manual, right? Mm-hmm. So developer would create a merge request with a label, apply the pick into whatever, and then, that's their task done. After that, release manager does issue a chatops command, and we automatically pick all the merge requests that have the label, past, and so on. Mm-hmm. And then this is again manual because RMs need to trigger the command from chatops. When we are ready to tag the release, so when this happens, we wait for pipelines to pass, both C and E, manually merge C into E, and then when we are ready, we tag a release. This clones C, E, tags correctly, applies versions, tags omnibus, and then waits for the pipeline to pass. Once the pipeline builds the package, it automatically gets deployed to staging. Skarbek, if you don't mind, could you close the window because it's again really loud. So out of all of these things, currently the only automated thing where it's like unattended is basically just release to staging. And what we've been doing in the past 2 days here, and a bit of prep work beforehand, was automate all of this so that we don't actually have to do any of these things. So right now, we are working on, or we already have a job that creates auto-deploy branch automatically. So it's going to run on a schedule, and every week it's going to create a new branch out of master and trigger the rest of the process. The thing for the developer remains the same. Anything that needs to go and be deployed in staging or canary or production will still need to have pick into label, right?
But now it's within a fixed time window or something instead of a release manager.
Exactly. So no longer you have to wait for the next release in a month or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be applied within the process. Within 1 week, it's going to be automatically deployed. Mm-hmm. Then this is going to be hooked up to all of this, where automatically using the picker, we are going to automatically pick all the merge requests that have certain labels applied and so on. And
it's still going to be pick into 11, like pick into version label? Because when we were in Amsterdam, you mentioned maybe an auto deploy label?
Correct. For now, we're going to keep the pick into because it keeps it consistent with what we've been doing so far, right? Because
no surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Every time you make a process change, it takes a while to propagate through the team, you know. Yeah. So there is another difference now that we are going to be automatically picking this on a schedule as well. Mm-hmm. So you as a developer, for example, you merge something that gets deployed to staging in Canary, it breaks something, or you need to improve. You as a developer will only need to apply this label and know that on a schedule this is going to be picked, and the message is going to be left on the merge request saying, I picked this and it's going to go into deployment, or I couldn't pick this, you need to do action, you know.
So if it couldn't be picked, if there's a conflict, what does an action look like? Will it need to go
the action, so Skarbek is working on the messaging right now. Basically, the message is going to be, we couldn't automatically pick it, you are going to have to go to this prep MR or stable branch or whatever, and target that branch instead. So yes, this was merged into master, but you are going to manually have to like take that branch or commits from that branch and try to send the merge request that way.
Mm-hmm. And then you will create a merge request that targets that same 1110 auto deploy branch.
Yeah,
and
correct.
And going to merge that?
Sorry?
how will that merge request be merged? Is that automatic?
So that is currently not automatic. That is currently going to have to go through release managers, but we are going to automate that as well at some point, right? Because it's the same. Yeah, because it's the same thing, right? We already got through the review process.
Yeah, all that. Only conflicts resolved, then we can just.
Exactly. So it's going to be MVPS and be done with it, right? It's going to be assigned most likely later on to the release bot or something like that. Like we currently have that for the security process.
Okay.
Now, this is a new part of the process where we're focusing on only deploying things that passed CI. Mm-hmm. So there is a chance that when we create a new deploy or a new branch, that already that branch is red. Or that throughout the process somehow that CI is red. So we created a process where we are going to find the last green commit on that specific branch, so in this case auto deploy. And when we find that, we are going to send that version where it's necessary tag and trigger a package and deploy. So basically this is going to tie into number 5, which is the only automated step right now. So this is new thing. So whether your thing is on an automated branch or not, if the pipeline is red, then that's not going to be deployed until something new comes in that makes that pipeline green. We are not deploying anything. So yeah, once that gets in, it gets deployed to staging, and when it's deployed to staging, Canary and production for now are going to remain manual step that we are going to be handling, right? We want a manual verification that anything goes to production. Like we can control it for now. We'll see whether we want to automate Canary in production fully, but until we test this process and iron out the kinks, we want to be the gatekeepers.
If in step 4 something got picked into that auto deploy branch and then the pipeline does end up red while it was green in master, it was just a consequence of stuff when we picked on top of each other. How does the developer find out? Is anything auto-reverted? Do you know which commit specifically produced it?
Right, nothing is auto-reverted. It's going to be pretty much silent until someone picks up a next thing that is going to make the branch green. And we are going to be responsible for making sure that we echo that, hey, deploy branch is red, we need help, like we need to figure this out. And I hope that's going to also force us to spend a bit more time on disciplining ourselves with what kind of specs we have, quarantining a bit more, or doing something with the specs to make them a bit more reliable. So that's going to have an effect on master as well, because any work we do there is going to improve the situation.
So if we have a bunch of these merge requests that have picked into 11.10 or something set to it, and they are going to be auto-picked, are they going to be pushed one by one so that we can actually see pretty clearly that's the commit interest of failure, or are you going to be pushed all in one go? So we have one pipeline and it's hard to figure out which of the multiple.
It's going to be cherry-picked into the branch merge request by merge request, right?
And then pushed up on merge request by merge request so we get each pipeline? Or I'm just trying to figure out how do we figure out who the developer is we need to ping because it's their merge request that caused this conflict, that caused this error failure.
It's going to be pushed as one go, right? We cherry pick and then push it.
Everything, so that everything will get tested the next go around.
Like we can do that more frequently, but
yeah, we can increase the frequency too.
The
But
time it takes to run the pipeline makes it just makes it very
Well, in the following release, we're going to have merge trains, so we'll be able to run all of these in parallel. If you submit them all in sequence as separate MRs and push them, it will build a merge train and run essentially all of them in sequence with maybe a second delay on each one. And like the first one will just be the first graph. The second pipeline will be A plus B. The third one will be A plus B plus C, but it will run them all in parallel. So they use more resources in terms of runners, but it will not take longer than if you did them all in one.
Yeah. We'll see how that's going to work. Yeah, that's something that we're going to look into when we actually have it. But yeah, that's the general process so far.
We still have a problem of, say we cherry pick 5 things. Those are each a separate commit because they're done through the API, and each one gets a pipeline, and the cancel redundant pipelines thing just does not work.
Probably not in that scenario.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good one to look into why it's not canceling those.
Maybe because they already started.
I've only ever seen it work, when they're all
pending.
pending.
I think that that's the case. We're not aggressively canceling things that we're
Oh,
starting.
okay.
And I know that there is an issue Mark created one, Mark Pansek.
There is,
one.
yeah. And I was actually just asking Brendan about that one earlier today.
Are we using the API to get cherry picking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we now have this fancy CI/skip push option where when you're pushing something, you can also say just don't run the pipeline.
Right. but
When we
don't know-
push-
But we're not pushing. No, that's why I was asking if we're using the API or not.
Yeah.
Oh,
API
yeah.
doesn't have a CI/skip option now.
Yeah.
All right, does any of this involve like deploying anywhere to staging? I guess it involves deploying to Next. How does feature flags interact with all of this?
They don't at the moment. So basically, we just deploy whatever you created and you added, right? And then you can enable and disable like you are currently in the process.
So somebody's doing that sort of out of this process just to maintain the correct state. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Again, for now, because
For now, yeah.
we are
Hi.
figuring this out.
It's A?
For you want,
Yeah.
Do we have any sort of policy on
En
materials?
hier ook?
Nee.
Deze,
Ik heb er 4.
Oké, doe je met je cappuccino as well? Oké, ja, dat is 4.
Yes. En een brownie?
Mr. Brendan.
Thank you.
Did you know they had brownies, or you're just like hoping they can knock them out?
What a brownie.
Thanks.
Do we have any sort of policy or development that states when could a feature flag be called at default?
So that's a big discussion. No, we don't. We have actually the opposite policy, and that is
The default.
defaulted to on.
Well, in the documents, we're still consistent about what they recommend.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
In
not
my,
consistent.
in my head, it's very consistent, but I only looked at one document.
But I created the issue, right?
You did, but
Everything.
it's not.
I know you haven't been able to get to it, yeah. Like, the documentation.
No, it's assigned to someone else, so that's why I'm not
Oh, to
acting.
Christopher, that's
Yeah.
right. You said assign it to me, that's true.
No, we are on purpose defaulting to on, and the only reason why I think we need to consider feature flags is to be able to like quickly react to any changes, right? On especially when we auto deploy this thing, and I think we should still keep it defaulted to on. But then, if you as a developer are unsure why, like you're not really sure whether this works properly or there are some like scaling concerns, I would like put it off by default and then like play with it a bit to see what happens. But then it's up to the developer to decide this. Like, we can't really necessarily automate all of that without impacting our shipping rate. So that's, I think, the biggest problem, right? The product would prefer if what we ship is on for everyone.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
We do have our own feature flag feature that's still coming from minimal to viable, so some of these ideas could be baked into that.
Yeah.
So maybe when we get to the point where we're considering how to get feature flags working with all this, we can take a look at our own feature and see what might be the gaps.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the difference from our perspective, like what changes here. But like I want to cover what's happening currently in our regular process, right? Like we have the known seventh. At that point, we call that a feature freeze. We create the stable branches. That's the manual part we do right now. And then anything that's in stable, we create an RC out of that, tag it, deploy to staging, execute QA, deploy canary, execute QA, deploy production, execute QA, and hopefully everything is okay. And then we run this around as many times as necessary, right? So basically this whole process is this process just sped up. Like instead of having this like in 2 weeks time, a bit more than 2 weeks, I guess. It's compressed a bit more, and we have an ambitious plan. Whether that's doable or not is a different question. Of actually running all of this per day. So every day, anything that marks a certain way would be picked into the auto deploy branch. That same day, we would tag and deploy to staging, and then promote anything that we deem okay. Promote to canary and production in that process.
So how often is the master branch merged or whatever into this?
Once a week.
Once a week.
Once a
Okay.
week.
But the pick label is only relevant if your change cannot wait a week because it's directly related to
Correct.
something broken that's already in there.
Broken improvement that affects people, right? Like, I don't know, front end cares about 1 pixel off or on, but if it actually affects people who cannot click the button disappeared or something like that, then you can apply all of that. So it's basically, the things that you would want to see resolve some problem that was introduced, and you want to see it there faster.
Yeah.
And staging is going to become a go-to place for you to verify your changes as well. Like, we are not going to have the QA manual checklist anymore, but you are still, as a developer, I'm going to change the definition of done that says until you saw your feature to production, you're not going to have, this is not done. Like, it needs to be confirmed as done.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
something what we were talking about in Amsterdam is
Yeah.
that it would be useful, I think, if the author of a merge request was pinged on that merge request once it lands in one of these environments, so that they know then to check it out, rather than the QA issue the way we do it right now.
Yeah.
And like be more directed in pinging them, your feature is now live, check it out, and otherwise you get a new merge request with the ping into whatever label is broken.
We spoke about that, and Yorick is actually working on getting the list of changes
Mapping it to
created
merge requests.
into in some format that would allow us to trigger the existing QA task for now. So existing QA task, instead of having checklists, it's not going to have checklists anymore, and that's going to be like our first step into informing people, hey, this is now in stage, for example. We talked a bit about like posting the comments and all of that, and definitely something worth doing. It's just that time.
Yeah,
Right, like first step is going to be like having this process somehow automated so that we can then start improving it as necessary.
Yeah,
But
if you want people to like
Mhm.
Monday orders to deploy branch lands in staging, if you within a week we really have to know whether there's something broken in there or not. People need to be pinged. We cannot just expect them to check it at some point.
this is why that issue that I told you about QA issue is going to be created every time something is deployed. You
But then
know?
if we're not going to have this check, okay, we're not going to have the checkboxes, but we are going to list all the items and
Yes.
ping the user in question.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. It's exactly the same QA issue without the checkboxes,
Okay,
right? Like,
that-
we're not going to wait for anyone to check off something or anything like
Yeah,
that.
makes
Right?
sense.
It's going to be information. Hey, this is what's deployed, and that also allows us to play with some of the compliance stuff and so on.
Cool.
But I just want to like quickly also explain this. This date is important because we are planning on turning off feature freeze on the first day of the summit, basically, or of the contribute. So it's the last feature freeze that we are going to try to have. And then we're moving into a transition period. Transition period is we are turning all of this on, and these branches are going to be created, and then this process is going to start. The reason why we chose this date, first of all, we're hoping we're going to get all of this done by then, so the sooner we get there, the better. Second of all, I expect way less changes to go in, because everyone is going to be traveling around the world.
Yeah.
And we're going to have like basically a 2-week window of people traveling and not that much work being executed, so we'll be able to iron out any kinks that we see, and then come 22nd or something like that, we'll understand where we are at with this, and it will also allow us to turn it off if we see that something is wrong.
Yeah. And I'm understanding correctly that this means that basically anything merged before the 15th will end up in the next release, no longer the 7th. Like, I guess.
So this is up for discussion.
Before the 27th.
So this is up for discussion. I'm not sure. Like I was thinking about that, like shifting just the feature freeze for a week. I actually think we might want to even change this up completely and say no feature freeze whatsoever. So if
Whatever's
this
an auto-deploy on the 22nd.
whatever is auto-deployed to production on the 22nd, this is what is going to be shipped to the customers. And this is where the product message is also going to have to change.
Yeah.
Because we are going to have this out in public on GitLab.com, so we will have to inform users way before, like as soon as something is merged, we need to say like, okay, within the next week, this is going to be deployed on GitLab.com. So breaking changes are going to need to be communicated differently. Also, like ensuring that whatever we announce on the 22nd is the actual thing that we are sure we're going to ship. So it's going to be really tough to say on the 20th, for example, oh, we just merged it now, can we put it on the 22nd blog post item? It's going to be really tough, like
Yeah.
unlikely to happen. So we'll have to like discuss changes in that as well. But again, this is why I'm calling this transition period, because in the next month or two we're going to have to like figure out all the kinks, because it's going to be.
I'm the release post manager for that release, so it sort of works perfectly.
I mean, if I only knew, but there we go. Perfect.
We can figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
I can only, yeah, it's going to be confusing.
Yeah, it is. But any transition period is always confusing.
Yeah.
So.
But we're already sort of having these similar confusing issues because of the continued developing behind a feature flag.
Yeah.
So we're sort of already running into this stuff. We'll figure
Yeah.
it out.
So everything deployed to production is going to be the release.
Yeah, so basically we are going to just have that commit in the help page, and from there we're going to be, okay, this is our backport branch, right?
Yeah.
The 11 stable branch.
Yeah, and then remind me, if that auto deploy branch is created, I'm guessing on the weekends or something? So that's
Sunday.
Monday.
Sunday.
It's on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
How many days, when would that same branch then be deployed to production roughly?
We say a week,
A week.
but this is only to buy us some time.
Well, I'm thinking in the context of having enough time to test stuff before it goes into the 22nd release, but that makes sense because it needs to be in production by then, and that means that like 5 days or so will already have passed since the auto deploy branch was created. But that makes it all the more important that especially during that week, people test our stuff.
Exactly, because
And we should be way revert happier than we have been in the
Yeah.
past.
absolutely. So come Monday, basically any time zone, you're gonna have your changes from last week deployed to staging.
Yeah.
So there is no excuse for you to not start your day with verifying that your fixes are okay and so on and so on. But yeah.
Yeah.
And I think like, the major problems we are going to have is messaging wise for developers who are building a feature, right? Like when is this going to land? It's going to become, instead of, well, the 22nd, because we hit the feature freeze, so it's going to be fine. Now it's going to be unclear. And that's one thing that I don't know necessarily how to improve off the bat.
It feels like it's a problem that that we're continuing development on like we used to have a moment where like on the 7th we would stop development on one release and start development on the other.
Yep.
And we extended that for good reasons to let things fit in. But now that we're just kind of continually delivering to production, that feels like an anti-pattern where you're in a state where you're working on 2 releases simultaneously, and maybe we should ask engineers to switch back to like whatever you guys decide, like this is the moment where we're going to stop development unless it's like a P1 sort of, emergency to continue development, and otherwise it will shift into the other one.
I'm thinking about like our whole development process is wrapped into this milestone that is from 22nd to 22nd, and that's actually what's creating a lot of confusion. I think we might need to move away from milestones that are like that, and instead of that having, well, this is finished now, where am I in the process of deployment? All right, self-managed customers, we are, I don't know, here for example, that means you're gonna get that thing next release, right? Like it's going to be more you applying a label when it's actually gonna ship rather than when you're actually working on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be a big switch in how we do things.
But if you do that, it makes a lot of other complicated things easier.
True. But that's a change that I mean, obviously, like we cannot tackle this very moment. It's going to be way too confusing.
And then I think the other one is the one you already touched on. The product is going to need to be aware that things are being shipped much sooner than they expect, and so a communication plan needs to be around those, not just passive documentation updates and hopefully somebody sees them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this content that we have like development month for 11.11, which would like end on the 8th and then 2 weeks later to release. Now, if you start working on something for 12.0 on the 8th and you have managed to get it done within the first 2 weeks, it's actually going to go to 11, not 12, which the PM I had scheduled it for.
Correct.
So we still want some kind of sprint, obviously, because we want to.
Which is exactly why, also one of the reasons why I chose this date, because if you start working on something on the 8th and merge it on the 9th, first of all, it's going to be very much lower volume, so we can actually handle whoever does that and it ends up being deployed. And basically this month of May, we're going to like just offset us not working fully by extending this all the way to the 22nd, you know, and like we buy ourselves 2 weeks, and then from the 22nd onwards, basically we go into a process. Well, everything that you merge into master is going to be on GitLab.com, if nothing else, you know, and then communication on when it's going to end on self-managed releases is.
But then also from a kind of a product scheduling perspective, we kind of need to decouple the release number from what we call
Milestone.
the development month, what we
Correct.
call the sprint.
Correct, that's going to be a big change for sure. So milestone no longer can necessarily be 11/10 because what does that mean?
Right.
But we could pick something, right?
Okay.
I think it would be strange, yeah, like, because what else would you use other than Milestone as a product manager to say, or even just as an engineer when you're trying to schedule something?
I mean, I could see using actual months, like year month, calendar month. If we line it up with the 1st to the 30th or 31st, whatever it is, we can just say, okay, in July we plan to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
And then you kind of
Correct.
move towards whenever it's done, then it's gonna go into version.
Like July 31st, you mean? July, or
I would
July
say the
1st?
entire month of July would be a milestone. The entire month of August would be
Yeah.
a milestone, because ultimately we're working with month-long sprints for like planning and scheduling purposes. But the release is going to end up on is kind of going to be up in the air, depending on when during the month someone happens to get that merged.
Unless you align the month to the 22nd.
Yeah,
Like
that's
the month
another
that
option.
you could, why isn't that an option? Sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
it's-
another
Oh,
option.
that's another option.
But
Yeah.
then even if you get something merged before the 22nd, it probably won't actually go into that release, because that auto-deploy branch will probably have to
Might
be
not
made
necessarily
5
gonna
days
reach
earlier
it.
or something.
But whatever that moment is,
Yeah.
that's the one that the month should start and end on.
But whatever that moment is depends on, I guess it would be the Friday of the week before, the week before that
it's
has
not
the
a
22nd.
consistent thing.
It's not a
Yeah.
consistent
No.
date, because we're looking at Sunday for creating this branch.
So that's another problem that definitely needs resolving.
Hmm. Could it be 3 days before the 22nd?
We can
Because
also
then it's
have that as a
always-
feature freeze date of some sort. Yeah,
Yeah.
But then,
it's gonna be like, yeah, if it manages to land in production by that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if we say that that takes roughly a week, which means that you need to have something merged 1 week before.
Again, we are saying that we are being conservative because we want to
Yeah, of course.
give ourselves some time, given our pipelines,
Oh,
given
no, we
all
need
of
it,
that.
like-
But the goal we have is to speed this up. Like, I don't want to have a weekly. Like, I want to have like a daily.
But we still want there to be time for engineers to
Yes.
fix or verge or whatever. So there will be some amount of time between that, and then since that basically means that every Sunday the auto deploy branch will be updated. Whatever goes in the 22nd is whatever went into the auto deploy branch, not the Sunday before that usually, but the Sunday before that, because only 1 week later production hits. But the date that it's going to be is going to be.
We can also like think about this a tiny bit differently and say, do we really need to? Well, I guess we need to verify for self-managed customers. Whatever ended up on GitLab.com, we want to say, all right, we deploy this. We know that this works. We know that our metrics are correct. So this is what we are
So we
shipping to
needed to
you.
have gone through that staging, canary,
Yeah.
production flow.
No, what I was trying to suggest is, what if we just go and say, you know, whatever was there at the point of 22nd is the release we're going to ship to you, and any change that needs backporting, we're going to backport that faster as well. Because we now have the automated system that gets this to GitLab.com, and this allows us some time to actually backport things to releases that are shipped to self-managed customers. That's a bit of a challenge with messaging as well.
Does that mean that what we would release might not actually have been tested on production?
On production,
At
yeah.
all?
In staging for sure, but
Okay,
not in
so-
production. That's
But if you're saying in staging for sure, like if people assume that they have a couple of days of time at least to get stuff figured out before it can go to production, to get their merge request pipeline review, pick from the
Mhm.
branch,
Will you be able
it
to
would be
roll?
very scary.
Will you be able to roll back the?
so installed
it-
package. The install package, will you be able
Well,
to?
like so on the 22nd, if you pick up, whatever came in that day,
Mhm.
and then we discover that that day has an issue, can you then roll back to the previous day or whatever we're more confident in?
on GitHub.com and Canary? Or?
Yeah, or both. I mean,